Yo guys, what's up and welcome back to the Marvelous Chats podcast. This is episode 84 of the cast. This week we're going to be going through a couple of episodes of The Last of Us. We're going to be talking about episode 3, episode 4 and episode 5, and we're also going to talk about the DC announcements for the new DCU, which is being headed up by James Gunn. Tonight on the cast is myself, Finto, and Alex aka Zaberwolf. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment below, let us know what you think of The Last of Us, and let us know what you think about all this juicy DC news. So, without further ado, yo Alex, dude, what's up? How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Pinto? How you been?
I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing good.
Awesome to hear that.
We got a lot to catch up on.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so we weren't live last week, and then typically HBO put out 3 episodes of The Last of Us in the space of 7 days. So, yeah, we got a lot to catch up on. If you're watching us on YouTube, the channel might look a little different. We're going through some technical difficulties at the moment with our streaming software, so we've had to pre-record this and put it up, but hopefully we'll have it sorted soon. So, guys, bear with us. It won't be long. So yeah, look, let's just dive straight in. We got a lot to talk about. Episode 3, The Last of Us.
Yeah. So episode 3, that took me for a turn. I really was not expecting it to go in that direction. You know how we all know about Bill's Town, and we know how Bill is within the game itself. And man, like it blew me away how much they could change quite a bit of the story and make it a lot more sentimental than it originally was. You know, because it was really important that in the game we find Frank and we find out what happened to him because Bill lost him after a while.
Yeah.
But in the show itself, it's like he's with him the entire time, the entire 20 years that go by, and it's just it's dramatic and it's like eventful, and I can't say much more other than like I loved it. I absolutely loved this rendition of Bill and Frank.
Yeah, like it's obviously this episode airing a couple of weeks, or last week, sorry, at the beginning of last week. So I've had time to kind of think about it. I've watched some breakdowns, and I've been watching social media and kind of seeing how everyone's reacting to it, and it's interesting to see. Most people, I've seen a lot of people like that are saying it could be like one of the best episodes of TV ever made, and then there's some people who are being idiots like they are online and just going against it just because of what it is and so on. And I gotta say, I watched the first 2 episodes of the show. I thought personally those 2 episodes were pretty much perfection, of pretty much a 10 out of 10. Like, I know you can't really give something 10 out of 10, but at the same time I think this is so close to being 10 out of 10 that you may as well call it 10 out of 10. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
and I think episode 3, while yes, it being very different to the game, Bill was a completely different Bill. And that kind of took me back a bit because, and again, because I've seen so much about this since the episode aired, I feel like I've played the game again. Whereas when I was watching it for the first time, it wasn't the Bill that I remembered, and I remember that taking me back. Not that I'm giving out about it. I think it was a fantastic adaptation and a fantastic expansion on their story, but the game was very different to me. I didn't pick up on the cue that he was gay in the game, and I think that it was very kind of just put out there, and it wasn't really like focused on at all. And I just think, obviously, with the way that media is today, I think it's much more of a focal point than it would have been back in like 2012 or 2011 when they were writing this game, where he says a remark to Joe in the game where it's just like, who is this guy? He's like, oh, this was my partner. And that was, you didn't really think about it, like, you just thought like, oh,
Right.
this is his partner. Like, I didn't think of it as a relationship really at the time, because Bill doesn't come across as being a gay man in the game, whereas in the show it kind of started the same way. I was like, yeah, this is Bill. This felt like the Bill that I knew. And then it kind of started jumping forward in time, and then when he meets Frank again, he's still kind of the Bill that you would know from the game, but then he starts to really soften up, and then obviously they get comfortable together, and then it was just a beautiful kind of bunny hop through time, and kind of a little unbelievable that they would still have their own little city like that 20 years later. I that was kind of, and I don't want to shit on the episode because I would say it is another almost perfect 10 for me anyway, but I did think in my first reactions watching it going, there's no way that this entire town didn't get raided in the 20 years that they're together. Like, like I found that a little bit unbelievable.
Well, with the design of Bill's town in the sense like he made it so that anytime there would be some sort of raid happening, like he would be ready.
Yeah,
Blast out like the fires going on, like the trap set, like everything's ready to go so that he can defend himself, he can take care of the things that he needs to take care of. And it worked out because like they actually show a moment in the show itself like hey like this whole raid's going to go on and we were like I was waiting for that. I was waiting to see like when we were actually going to see some sort of raid or
yeah,
some sort of infiltration and they delivered and afterwards that's why Bill contacts Joel, has Frank contact Joel, and it works out perfectly. Like this is how you know this is how Joel and Bill get to know each other a bit more, get to be more acquainted
yeah,
and less against each other. And also like in regards to the idea about Bill like being a gay man, for most people I would say when you play a video game, the majority of the general population when they play a video game, they do a cutscene, they finish the cutscene, and then they just push for it. They like beeline it. They want to get out of that area. They want to go to the next area. They want to start fighting things. If you were to take a look in the game itself, the moment you have control back after the cutscene, when you go into the cellar area with Bill and Ellie, there is a magazine that Ellie takes later on, and she's
yeah,
in the truck. And so you kind of get this inkling like, okay, so either he's amassing the magazines or he likes men. And then when you get to the point where like he was my partner, when you see Frank, like in his state, like in the game itself, you never really got the idea that like yes, like he is a gay man. This was his partner, um, meaning like love interest in the sense.
yeah,
And it's the way that you take it in, the way that you see Bill, the way you see the way he reacts as like he's crying, like in the sense he's like starting to tear up, he's starting to show like he's choking up in the game itself, and he's like he's got bites here and here. And for me, that's enough for me to click and be like, oh, this guy like had feelings for him. This guy was like really for him. Like he really liked Frank. He kept him around because he really liked him. He wanted to be around him. And you even find a note like later on in that area as to like Frank showing like he was just tired of him.
yeah,
And so that might have also driven that whole point of like, oh, they're just partners. They're not lovers in any sense. It's just,
mm,
oh, Frank just hated his guts and he was just there to be there. No,
yeah.
like Frank took it. Like he was just getting tired of Bill's like paranoia and like,
Yeah,
stature.
that's the way I took it. Like when I first played it, I thought that the two of them were just kind of two survivors who were kind of, partners in surviving. I didn't take it as a gay relationship, and I don't think I found the note the first time when I did my first time playthrough. So I didn't have that scene where the cut scene where Joe gives him the note, and then as well like Bill just so like again, just proving how different he is in the game. It's just like he reads the note and he goes, "Oh, what a fucker," or something, and just throws it away,
Yeah,
And
like
he's just such a hard man, like in the game, like So it was just kind of like, whoa, this guy's different. Um,
right. And it's
what?
the general notion
Yeah,
that you take in like when you think of a gay man, like the majority of us, like not gonna lie, the majority of us when we see a gay man, we're thinking a little more flamboyant, has a different type of tone to their voice. They're not exactly in the same kind of like stature as we are, but like it's become more and more apparent that like a gay man is anybody. Is at this point is it could be anybody. Like I could be like it's one of those things that like you wouldn't know unless you found out like who my partner was or you found out what my interests were.
oh yeah,
You know,
I,
you
I,
you would
I
you would have to
have, I
dig
know,
deep.
I know people who are like that. They're
Yeah,
friends of mine who are gay, and like you wouldn't know until they told you. So
yeah.
it's yeah, it's
It it,
definitely
it and I totally get it when we see Bill, we're like just a tough man, just hard man trying to keep himself from
yeah,
dying. No, he had a heart. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, not in the game, he didn't.
no, no, he was more of an asshole.
Well, I kind of like, so I wanted to ask, like, what did you think? Like, do you prefer him from the game or from the show?
Still kind of prefer him from the game, only for the fact that like it's a game. Like I just love the excitement, the thrills, and like all the journeys that you go through with Bill. Like it's a very
Yeah,
short journey, but like it's fucking fun.
I have the
Like,
exact. My answer is the exact same, and it's not for the reason. It's nothing to do with the gay stuff, but it's just the fact that in the game, he comes on the mission with you when you see the first bloater. He's there. He teaches you to make the nail bombs and stuff, and you have loads of great like banter between him and Ellie, and the two of them are kind of at each other's throats and everything. And I just think if they had, and I think there's agendas in Hollywood now to kind of put the whole like gay thing to the front of the to the front of
right.
storytelling. So I can understand why they've done that now, as opposed to why they didn't do it back then. Whereas if this game was made today, it would probably be the exact same. We'd get the same story but just in a game. Whereas I just think that the game version of the storyline flowed a lot better, and I think if they did a one for one adaptation and just maybe focused on him being gay a little more, the fact that they had a relationship, and just gave us the story how it was told in the game, but then maybe just added in a little more Frank, I think that would have been really cool. And then how like heartbreaking would it have been if you got to see half of the flashback scenes, not the full whack of what we got, but just say we got 20 minutes of Frank, and then we see
Yeah.
him hanging in that room at the end. You'd be heartbroken, you'd be destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like you kind of wish that they had made DLC for that because they made DLC for Ellie and Riley.
Yeah, like I'd love to
It's
see a DLC of Frank and Bill. That'd be great.
That
That
would be
would
fantastic.
it would be great. Um, but yeah, like I just when I was watching it, I was just thinking to myself like, in 20 years, there's no way that city would still be standing. I don't know. I don't care. I'm sorry. I know he has traps and everything, but like Fedra coming rocking through and seeing like, hang on, there's a fucking full city in here. We have to get in there and see what's in there. Someone is actively protecting this place. Like there's power going through the gates. There's traps. We got to get in there. Like there's no way that gangs would not be like, we're gonna get a tank and we're going through. We're going in here. Like we have to. There's got to be something good in here.
Right, and I think that the idea was that like nobody was really like detecting that area because the military was already pulling them out,
Yeah.
so they considered it maybe a dead zone.
Yeah.
And so it's possible that they've also that maybe Bill had some contentions. I'm not trying to like give him like put him up on the pedestal, say he's like the smartest dude ever, but maybe he put some other things that led deterred people. You never know.
Yeah.
But in terms of a show, like you have to kind of keep the plot as like simple as possible. You can't just go like super crazy with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they went with this direction with the show because if you were to do the same thing like from the game into the show, like there'd be like there'd be 12, 15 episodes, not just 9.
Hmm.
Like this show would last way too long because you have to traverse those areas
Yeah.
and there's a lot of introspective, there's a lot of characters that you have to go through, and you could tell that like they're kind of chewing through the characters pretty quickly, but it's like a good chew. It's like a really nice taste to the show. I haven't talked to anybody that said that they didn't like it. They say that like it strays a little bit, but it really keeps true to what's
Hmm.
going on
Yeah.
and to why like this whole situation is so fucked. And
Yeah.
so like in terms of the whole Billstown thing, yeah, it's a little unbelievable, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad that it was because then we wouldn't get that whole situation with Bill and Frank. Like they'd probably be doing exactly what they did in the game and be fighting or arguing over things.
Yeah. 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 Like, look, I have some like extremely tiny gripes like that about the episode, but like it's me just fucking picking at stuff, just to try and just to try and have a conversation about it. Like
Yeah,
I watched the episode, and honestly, like after the episode, I had a giant smile on my face. I just couldn't believe that we were so lucky to have it. It's and that's how I felt every single week when we've been watching this show. Um, a question that I brought up on previous casts, which I want to just ask you again because we're kind of further into it now. So obviously at the time of recording this cast, we've actually aired episode 3, 4, and 5 now, so we're past the halfway point for the first season. Do you still think, I brought this up before, but do you still think that the first season's going to end where the first game ended?
so I did some research and I
Mm.
found out that Neil Druckmann actually confirmed this show is going to end. Episode 9 is going to end with the first game.
Oh shit.
So it's 100% going through, and we're already done with, Sam and Henry. All we have left is Tommy, winter time with David, and then the finale. So
Yeah.
we still have, so that's 3 episodes in total, that if you were to think about it that way. And the fourth episode in that whole mixture would be Ellie and Riley. So it just depends. Like I would say, like I'm still saying, like it's definite. Like we're going to finish by the end of the season, but how they finish. Like, are we going to finish on episode 8 and then we do the DLC on episode 9 just to kind of like show like this whole like one
Yeah.
side of Ellie, or are we
Yeah.
going to get the introspective in between and then end on the finale of the game itself?
Yeah. 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 I know what you mean. I don't know what I'd like.
Right.
I kind of would like the dust to settle after 8, and then kind of have a kind of a prequel episode for 9, maybe, like kind of the way that
Yeah.
they've released the game. So that wouldn't surprise me. But I think people would be very confused about that. Like people who haven't played the
Yeah,
game.
they're like
Yeah.
they're
Like
like it's over. Why
yeah.
are we continuing? What does it matter?
Yeah.
But like I agree with you, man. Like it'd be so cool to like have this like end and then like just have the DLC part being the final episode to
Yeah.
kind of show like this moment where Ellie had someone that she really cared about,
Yeah.
and now like she's on her way basically to meet Joel and Tess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just it's basically how we enjoyed the game. Like we had to wait for the DLC to
Yeah.
kind of finish the whole loop.
Yeah. 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 Let's talk about episode 4. So episode 4, I can't remember the name of it, but this is the episode where they basically go to. They're in. Is it in Kansas? Because I know it's a different city from in the game. I think they go to Pennsylvania or something in the game, but in the show they're in Kansas. Am I right?
Believe they're in Kansas. Yes.
So, what did you think of this episode? I thought this one was. I think it's the shortest episode of the season so far that we've gotten. I think it was like 43-minute runtime or something like that. Um, what did you think? Like, did you? I thought this was very close to the game, so I felt very familiar watching this episode.
Right. I really enjoyed that whole perspective of us reaching to that point where you have the fork in the road, and Joel is trying to kind of like figure out what the hell he wants to do, because in the game itself you just kind of reach that crossroads and he already knows because he's aware that like there's going to be an ambush coming,
Yeah,
and he says screw it and he goes into that section. But in this case for the show, it kind of gives us a reason why he thought of that. Like he was like, okay, so this is completely weird that the whole area on this side is just blocked off and the rest of the area is like nice and clean in the sense.
yeah,
And so like it gives the viewer the feeling that they're getting more information about why Joel is like, this kind of sucks, but we're going to turn back around and we're going to go the other way. We're going to have
yeah,
to take the long way, because he knew that he was going to have to go into the city.
yeah,
And I think that was the whole perspective, is that like it sucks, we're gonna have to go through the city, but fuck it, we're going through. The way that they did the ambush scene, I think was well done. I don't think it was like as good as it could have been, like as it like within showing in the game.
yeah.
But to be completely fair, in the game it's a little more brutal, because like
Oh yeah,
Joel and Ellie are like, are you okay? Are you okay? Yeah. And then all of a sudden the dude pulls them out and there's a brawl,
yeah. You got all the
and
hand-to-hand
Joel is
combat,
about
which
to
isn't happening in the show, which is just
right.
brutal in the game. Like the hand-to-hand combat in the
Right.
game is so brutal.
But it's like you said, like, you know, Pedro Pascal is kind of getting up there in age. Like he
Yeah,
can't really like do all these
that's
kind of moves.
That's what I had in my head watching it. So when they crash the car into the shop, and they're getting out and they're shooting and everything like that, and he's like, go to Ellie, climb through the wall. I was just like thinking to myself, like, oh, that just reminds me of when you play as Ellie, and like, she can crawl through the crawl spaces and stuff, and that just really, like, that was a proper little Easter egg to the game for me. I was just like, this is amazing. And just even how Joel's crouching around and stuff, like, I did think to myself, this could be better. But I would say I always have it in the back of my head that he said that he can't do everything that Joel does in the game, and it's fair enough. But yeah, no, I thought it was great, and just when the dude, because they're not Fedra, right? They're just the people or whatever. We the people, they call themselves.
They're the people that basically rebelled against Fedra
Yeah,
and like took over the city for their own.
exactly. Yeah. So I thought the scene was great where Ellie shoots the kid, like he's like a teenager or whatever, and then he starts like
Mm.
kind of trying to plead for his life and stuff like that, and then Joel's like go into the other room. But like I thought it was really good there because like you were sitting there the whole time expecting this massive gunshot, and the gunshot doesn't go off, and you hear like a stab or something like that. And it actually came up to shout out the official podcast for The Last of Us as well. They spoke about it. Troy Baker brought it up. They were like, Troy himself said the same thing. He's like, I was sitting waiting for a big loud gunshot to go off, and Drunkman, the creator, was just like, well, like when I was playing the game, what one thing that pissed me off so much about the game was just that it was so hard to find bullets. So he's like, and he's like, that's real. Like that's what it would really be like. Would Joel waste a bullet for two reasons? Would he waste a bullet because it's a waste of a bullet? And for the second thing is that it's very loud and it could potentially bring reinforcements. So of course he's going to use his knife where he can and he's going to stab him. So I thought that was really clever and just kind of real. It felt real.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And I think it really drew in the idea that like shit's crazy, that like so crazy that kids are a part of the army,
yeah,
and that it's just getting fucking brutal to the point where like he can't trust him. It doesn't matter how much the kid pleads and he wants to go back to his mother and whatnot.
yeah,
Like he chose the life he chose. And I mean, or it was kind of forced upon him. It just really depends on like what Kathleen's rule was designed to be. Like, is everyone supposed to pull their own weight? Are the kids safe from this? Do they have to wait until they're of age in the certain sense? Because the kid could have been like 17 for all we know. Like he's not even fully grown yet, and it's just like that moment of like, sorry, kid, you just happen to be in the wrong area.
No, when I was watching it, I was so like immersed into the show. I was sitting on the couch. I was like, "Fuck that guy!" I was like, "Kill him, Joel, kill him!" I was like, "Fuck this!" I was like, "He's only trying to plead with you now because he lost the fight." And that's how you would. That's the mindset you would need to have in that world. Like, you can't be falling for shit with like, "Oh, let's be friends, let's negotiate. I'll bring you back and say you're cool and all." It's like, get the fuck out of here. Not a chance. You know what I mean? It's like that dude's dead. Pulls a gun on Ellie or pulls a gun on you. Game over. Simple
Yeah.
as like that's the world
Well,
you live in.
that for the fact that Joel himself has said like he's been on both sides before, and if he were to let that kid live, who knows if he
Oh,
were to go talk to
hundred
Kathleen and let
hundred
Kathleen
percent.
know, like,
It's
yeah,
it's only bringing trouble down the line. You know what I mean?
right.
Like there's no other way about it. So yeah, what do you think of Kathleen's character? Because again, she's a completely new character, never in the game, created just specifically for the show. And what did you think of the actress choice?
Actor's choice was good. I thought it was performed pretty well. I think that the character as a whole though needed more enthusiasm, needed more emphasis, needed that strength sound, because as much as she was the leader of that resistance group,
Hmm.
I didn't believe her to be a leader. Like she
Yeah,
was a little too calm, too somber, like not really giving that much like position of power, in the sense like she was talking to the entire crowd and she should have been booming at the voice instead of
yeah,
sounding as if like she's just talking to a few people.
yeah,
It didn't convey that strength, and they only followed her because like she had the know-how or she has like some sort of power, but it's very quiet in a certain sense. And it's like, I think in this kind of world, it's okay to be loud,
hmm,
because who's gonna stop you at this point?
yeah. And like I think the way that they bring across her character when you first meet her, she is very tame and like it looks like she can't even hold a gun, but then she's got the doctor who actually delivered her as a child. She has him held captive in a room and then just with ease blows his head off. So I thought it was very interesting how you kind of saw both sides to her. She seemed like kind of as if she couldn't do anything to then turning into like a vicious killer. But I suppose that's 20 years of living in a zombie apocalypse. Like you're going to be desensitized to that sort of shit. Like I,
Right. And
I wouldn't blink an eyelid, man. I'd kill that guy with ease, like because that's just the world. You don't know any better. Like, could you imagine like living like that for 20 years? Like, you wouldn't
mm,
even bat an eyelid. Like, you're not gonna lose a minute's sleep over something like that.
right. And I think with Kathleen though, like it seemed like a handful of people didn't really fear her as much as I thought they would.
Mm,
There was just this group, and yes, they have this group like held up, but they're held up because of the guns,
yeah.
not so much because Kathleen is terrifying. I never found Kathleen to be terrifying. I
Fun.
understood her. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, fun fact for you. Her like left hand man, the dude with the big white beard, his name is Jeffrey Pierce. He actually is the voice of Tommy in the game,
Oh, that's awesome.
isn't it?
That's really cool.
I thought that was a really cool kind of Easter egg that I didn't know about until I listened to the official podcast again. But yeah, very cool because Troy Baker's like, oh, Jeffrey's a really good friend of mine. It was great to see him in live action and stuff. And I was like, oh wow, this guy's actually in the game. Obviously, and it's like he's Tommy. I'm like, wow, okay, so he's a very important character in the game. So I thought that was really cool the way they did that. And the actress who plays Kathleen, her name is Marlene Linsky. She's the only thing I know her from is Two and a Half Men. So for me, as again, like it was weird to see her. I'm just like I always kind of just see her in kind of comedy roles, and apparently like the one of the main directors was just like, look, I'm good friends with her, and I asked her to do the role, and she just he was very much gave her every out that she could possibly ask for, or just like don't feel like you're obliged that you have to do this if this isn't the type of role that you want. Just say no, it's fine, I won't take it personally. And she was like, I absolutely will do it. So it's interesting to see someone like her who if this isn't her usually her acting forte, or if it is, she's never been in anything big like this. I've never seen her in anything serious, we'll say, and I think she's doing a great job.
Yeah, I really thought, like I said, I think that she did well. I just think she could have turned it up a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The pun book, man.
Oh
We
my
got
God. Dude, I have never gotten all the puns in the game itself. So like to hear them in the
yeah.
show, actually quite amusing.
I know. I
I,
thought it
I
was
really
great.
enjoyed it.
That
Yeah.
moment at the very end of the episode as well, where Joel kind of bursts out laughing, and we kind of see a bit of humanity in him and a bit of joy. You can tell he hasn't probably laughed in about fucking 10 years or something. You know what I mean? So it's like
Right.
it was just a real beautiful scene where she tells him the one last joke before they go to sleep, and he can't hold it in. He's just like bursts out laughing, and it was beautiful, man. It really was. Like it was so well done. Like, and I think like I remember back to when I first heard the announcement of him being cast as Joel, and I was just like, I don't see it, but obviously they see something. And like in that scene right there, I'm just like, okay, I kind of see it. Like this guy's amazing. Like not that I didn't know he was a good actor already, but I was just like, that scene was incredible. Like it just felt so
Right.
real. Felt so
Right.
real.
Well, that's the thing with Pedro Pascal. Like for most actors that we could see, a lot of the actors that we see nowadays are typecast for their role.
Hmm.
Like they're just automatically, like you see Batista, and Batista now plays roles that he can kind of be dynamic on. Like he's pretty funny in quite a few things, but he was in Dune, and that was intended to be a serious show.
Hmm.
Like he's been a wrestler, so like he's really good at, like, it seems to me that like WWE actors, like WWE players, tend to become like great actors because like I really enjoy The Rock, I really enjoy John Cena, and I really enjoy Dave Batista. Or was he never in WWE? Sorry. Was he
Batista
just only in...
is no, yeah, no, he is.
Okay, okay.
Batista
Sorry.
was like a professional wrestler, yeah, for years.
Okay.
Like he was the
Okay.
champion and all. So yeah, no, you're right. You're right. What you're saying. Don't worry, you're
In my
safe.
head, I was like, wait, do I need to roll that back?
Yeah, no, I like The Rock is The Rock. He's kind of his own thing now. He's like, I still kind of, I don't, I would never call him Dwayne. Like, you know what I mean? He's always just The Rock. I think he just plays that persona, and even in his acting now, he's kind of just The Rock. Like, Black Adam was the perfect example. Like, he went into a superhero thing where he could have really done something different, and he was still just The Rock in a Black Adam costume. So I, I there are performances of his that I enjoy, but I wouldn't call him a talented actor. At the same time, now I know he's gotten a lot better from when he first started acting, but he's not like an Academy Award winning actor. You know what I mean? But I think, and I don't know if Batista's there either, but Batista's a lot better. And I think John Cena has done some terrible shit, and he's done some fucking excellent shit as well. So he has the ability to be a good actor, but I think for Cena, it's like very much Jesus. If like he's doing something like Fast Nine, like that was probably one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life, and he was so bad in that. And then I remember I had just finished watching Peacemaker, and he was so good in Peacemaker. And then I saw Fast Nine, I was like, oh my god, this is terrible. Like my mind was changed on him. I was like, oh my god, John Cena is actually an incredible actor. Wow, this is amazing. Then I went to watch Fast Nine, I was like, oh my god, this is terrible. Like what the fuck,
Well,
you know? So
and that's kind of like the thing is like he's kind of on. It's also that he's on thin ice because if you were to think about it this way, like he's kind of typecasting himself
yeah,
very closely in terms of like, in Daddy's Home too. I think he's also in that, and he's supposed to be kind of silly in that one. And for any roles that he's in, he tends to try to be a little more silly about it. Maybe it's because he's been in a lot of more serious roles in the past, and
yeah,
so now he wants to kind of like loosen up and branch out. But I would really like to see him do like another serious role for something completely different from what we were so used to seeing him do. Like
facts.
we don't need to see him as like an army man. We don't need to see him as like Peacemaker. Like I kind of want to see what he would do in like a drama.
Yeah,
Because like
maybe we'll get that someday. I don't know.
I would love that, man. Because
Yeah,
like if you think about it, like you had these action heroes like Bruce Willis, like he was in like a drama show
yeah,
before he was like ultimately the action hero.
yeah. Sure, he was on
And
Friends. He was in like 10 episodes of Friends in like 1999. It's hilarious.
yeah,
Like,
you
yeah,
you have that ability. You just have to like get that role.
yeah, yeah. Well, the problem is just obviously for these guys, it's getting the offers, it's getting the money that they need or the money that they want. A lot of people aren't going to be looking for these like really serious roles where they have like a long list of A-list actors who have been nominated for Oscars, and then it's like actually let's give Batista a chance here. You know what I mean? Like it's so hard, like because these guys probably just aren't going to get that chance unless they do something where they show that range and they show that it can be done. It's like, why would I hire Batista and take a chance when I can get fucking, Leonardo DiCaprio or something to do some,
Right.
you know what I mean? So yeah, like it's really tough. It's really tough for these guys to break the mold. But I think Batista's the one who's doing it the best, like, because he's the one showing the most range out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep. I
yeah.
agree.
Because like, isn't he doing horror stuff soon as well? There's like a horror movie he's going to be in, and
Yeah.
he's done
Yeah,
Dune, and yeah,
he's
like
trying to do everything, man. Like
yeah,
he's not trying to just sit in one spot. Like, and I love that. I
yeah,
really do enjoy that about him.
yeah. No, fair play to him because I know I was listening to him on the Michael Rosenbaum podcast before, and he was saying that like before he got the Guardians role, he was literally borrowing money to buy his kids Christmas presents. Like he was like on the verge
Wow.
of like bankruptcy. He was done, and then Guardians saved his life. Like so it's amazing to see him do so well. And like when I hear stories about like that about people, I just instantly just root for them, and I'm just like, if he does a shit movie, whatever. I'm just happy he's getting paid. You know what I mean? And I'm happy he's
Exactly.
getting to
Yeah.
do more cool shit. Like, and Batista he's doing great. So, um, let's get back into The Last of Us. We went way off topic there. We're quite marvelous at getting off topic. It's great. But
Oh yeah.
yeah. So sorry. Back to episode 4. I'm
Or
trying to
four
think.
or five.
Well, we didn't did we finish talking about episode 4? I suppose we kind of did. Basically, the end of episode 4 and 5 are literally, you could watch them as one continuous episode because it kind of just it's literally just the end of episode 4 is our first introduction to Henry and Sam, and then we fade to black and that's it. And then when we come back, we just literally pick up where we left off. So yeah, basically episode 5. Again, like, I don't know. I'm so conflicted because I feel like I've seen these episodes already. I know I've been talking about this in previous episodes, but we know the game so well. So like the second I saw the two of them standing there, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, this is Henry and Sam. You know what I mean? Whereas I would have liked the suspense of not knowing that as well. Because like I even said,
Right.
like my girlfriend was like to be like again completely oblivious to the games, never played them before. And she was like, "Who's that dude there?" And I was like, "Oh, that's Henry." And she's like, "Oh, is that the guy everyone's been looking for?" And I was like, "Oh shit, I didn't even think of that. Like that, there's that kind of reveal." Because I'm just like, I know all this already. So I'm just like, yeah, that's Henry. That's the dude who they're looking for. And I just, it kind of hurts in a way because I don't have that kind of excitement and the reveal, the same as she does because she's completely blind on the whole thing.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like again, episode 5 was just mind blowing in my opinion. Like I thought the whole story with Sam being deaf, I thought was very clever. I think you know deaf characters in the horror setting just makes everything to me so much scarier because they have to be so quiet. And I just think in my head the whole time, I feel so sorry for this fucking kid because he can't even hear anything. Like a clicker could be right behind him and he wouldn't even hear it. Like, it's so terrifying. And it made me think about the movie A Quiet Place. I thought they did it so well with all of them signing together because they had the deaf daughter. I just thought this is such a fucking amazing little element to add to it because Sam wasn't deaf in the game, and then it was just very well put together. It just brought so much suspense to those scenes, and I think again, I'm not taking credit for this, but I heard it on the official cast as well. But they said they wanted to differentiate Sam and Henry from Joel and Ellie because their journeys are so similar if you think about it. That
Yeah.
if them adding the element of the deafness just made the two stories seem different because when you're watching the show you're seeing all these different characters and different perspectives, but when you're playing the game you're Joel for 85% of the game and then you're Ellie for a little bit, so it's all on their perspective. So when you meet Sam and Henry in the game, you're just kind of coming across them after being Joel for 15 hours or however long you're playing the game up until you get to that point. But whereas here they have the opportunity to obviously go and tell a bit of a backstory, and I just thought, yeah, it was great. I just thought it was very clever how they did that and how they just made you care so much about these characters who basically are just another Joel and Ellie. Like they are the same people on paper, but they just made them so different in the show. It was. I tip my hat to them. It was brilliant. It was very
Right.
well done.
Well, and it makes it much more intense when you know that a person with a condition that kind of like is a detriment to survival is still around within the like the area. Like it's like this era should just have killed off anybody who had conditions that like they can't survive
Yeah,
without.
yeah,
And and you see that with Henry, he's doing his best because he has to take care of Sam because he has that condition, and
hmm
he also has leukemia,
I
and so
know.
it's
Double
like this
whammy.
moment of like, yeah, it's like there's inevitability, like
Yeah,
like he's eventually going to run out of meds, or he's gonna get bit, which spoilers for anybody who's like, if you're watching this, already know the spoilers.
yeah. You've seen
Sam
it.
gets bit, yeah,
Yeah,
and it's heartbreaking because it's like, well, he had no way of saying that he got bit, in the sense like he could write it down if he wanted to, but he was scared.
yeah,
And that scene, like it does, like as we got closer and every time the scene changed and we got closer to like that house that they
yeah,
stay in the
yeah, yeah,
original
yeah,
game,
yeah.
like
You
I
knew it
was
was. I knew it
literally
was coming.
choking. I was choking up and I started tearing up,
Yeah.
and I had to like, and Katie's watching with me on this whole situation. So
Has
like
she
the whole
played the
time,
games?
no, she's never played the
Okay, so
games.
you're in the same situation as me. You're watching it with someone who's completely new.
Well, I've shown her like all the cutscenes just so
Oh,
that
okay,
she
okay.
knows like what
Right, okay,
happens.
okay. Yeah.
But it's been so long
hmm
since I've shown her the cutscenes that like she practiced, because I asked her, I'm like, do you remember what happens with
Yeah.
like with this whole situation? She's like, I don't remember these two.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
like, okay. And then I just
Great.
shut
That's
up
great.
and I just let
Yeah.
her go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I kind of, I'm like, through my peripheral vision, I'm kind of looking at my girlfriend. I'm just like, is she kind of getting upset here? Like, how is she taking this scene? But, yeah, like, it was just, it's heartbreaking, man. Like, the little kid, he was such a cute little kid who played Sam as well. Like, I was like, I know where this is going in the game. And I was like, if this goes the same way, it's going to be a pretty tough watch now, especially because we know that he is bit and just how he the whole line about when you become a monster are you still yourself on the inside, like Jesus Christ, like I was a wreck watching that. Like I was like, Jesus, I felt so sad for that kid. Like um and then like her saying that she was obviously she's scared all the time and all, which is so a really nice thing to say to a kid like that, to kind of bring him back down. I thought, when she, like, and I don't remember, you might remember this better than me, but in the game, does she actually do the same thing with the blood? Does she try and cure
No.
him? Yeah, I thought that was
Yeah.
different. That was different.
Right. So in the game, he like Sam can talk, and
Yeah,
Sam talks to Ellie the same way. It's like, don't you ever get scared? And it's like, do you think that if that when they change that there's still a piece of them inside? Like, are they still a monster? Are they a monster or what?
yeah,
And so this whole conversation that they're having, like it's because like they're thinking like they got out of it. They're free. They made it. Nobody got hurt. And that whole point was to show that like Ellie, Joel, and Henry would not know at all that Sam was bit. And so like you see it at the very end of the game, like at the that scene with the game, he lifts up his pants and you see like the bite.
Hmm.
And so like that's kind of like the focal point. Whereas with this one, they wanted to really show a more humanized or like a more sensitive Ellie because yes, she is still a kid, but like she's trying to harden herself at the same time.
Yeah.
And but also try to be as much of a savior as she can as well because she knows that she's immune and she has like there's got to be some way to fix this, right? So maybe she thought like I'll rub some blood on him and it's mixed with blood that's like got probably antigens, to defend herself
Yeah.
from this kind of infection. And in my head I'm like if this works and like this changes the dynamic of the show
Yeah.
completely.
Man, I was
And
I was sitting there thinking like, oh shit, is this gonna work? Like, you know, like I was like, I don't know how I feel about this if this actually does work because it changes obviously everything because we don't actually get the scene where poor Sam has to be shot and then did Henry put the gun on himself at the end as well? I can't remember. He did, didn't
in
he?
the game,
In
yeah.
the game, yeah, he
Yeah.
did, yeah.
So
Yeah. So yeah,
so
I
it,
was kind of
it ends
scared,
up in
bro.
the same.
I was scared.
Yeah, it ends up in the same like format. Like it's
Yeah,
basically Ellie gets pushed out into the scene,
yeah,
and then Henry grabs the gun, and Henry tells Joel like, "Don't," and so he has to shoot Sam, and then because of the different way that they've met, and because there's more of a story behind on the show as to why Henry was like on the run.
hmm,
That's why Henry says like, "What did I do? Like, what do I do and whatnot?" Because at that point he has nothing left. In the
yeah,
game, he blames Joel. He points the gun back at Joel and he goes, "This is all your fault
yeah,
because because they showed up because they kind of made it difficult for them to stay hidden and because Joel and Ellie were kind of giving that same light of like we could get out of this. We could escape. We can find somewhere safe
hmm,
and get out of this town or city." And it just doesn't end up the same way. So like the strength of that moment is strong in the game and it's just as strong in the show. I say like whether you compare the two right now, like it's almost 1 to 1
yeah,
because they had so much. Henry had so much to live for and yet he lost it all in that one moment that Sam turned.
yeah. I
And
thought
and
that
it was
was beautiful, bro. It was so
yeah.
beautiful. It was incredible acting, and the way I kind of perceived was like when Henry saw Sam about to like attack Elliot, he doesn't know that she's immune, so he just it kind of is like an automatic like like reflex that he's just gonna like shoot the gun, and like then it's like, oh my god, what's he done? He's looking at all the blood and he's like, what have I done? What have I done? And then just kind of it snaps in, oh my god, I've just killed my little brother, and then boom, just takes his own life. Like I was just like, oh my god, like it was a tough watch, bro. It really was. I just like the both of those dudes like were just such good actors. Um,
Yep.
really, really were. And I'm sad that they have to go so quickly because I would have loved to seen more of them in it.
Yeah, but it's just like we've talked about earlier, man. Like Pedro Pascal's kind of aged. Like he's getting to that point where like he can't really do too much in terms of like action anymore. He's an old man.
Yeah,
He's an old man.
that's what
So
they got stunt
so,
doubles for, though. You know.
true, very true. But like maybe they just wanted to maybe in this term of the show they just want to tell the story.
Yeah,
They don't want too much bloodshed. They just want to show the journey itself
yeah,
because there are hardships in the game, and I think that's one of the cool things that I find about in terms of the difference between the game and the show, is that the show is trying to give you the story itself. The show is trying to just beeline you towards the points that really matter. Whereas the game is giving you that moment of like, I did this.
yeah,
I made it through this journey with them. I'm able to see the end because I helped them get to it.
yeah, for sure. Um, I loved the scene as well, just where all the infected came out from under the ground. Jesus.
Okay, Real quick, did you like the bloater part? I like as soon as I heard that rumbling and like the roar,
Well, in episode
like
4, just to go backstep a tiny bit, do you remember when the what's her name, Kathleen and the her left hand are going through the into the building, and they see the cracked ground, and you know he's under there, and like they kind of
right.
like ruined it in one of the trailers where you see him coming up. But I thought that's where it was going to happen. I wasn't expecting it to happen out in out in the suburb, which I thought was a pretty surprising part. So I thought maybe the bloater wasn't going to arrive to Joel and Ellie and all them during that scene. I thought it was going to be like maybe the people, the resistance. I thought they were going to run into it and have to fight it off. But yeah, like, oh
And
man, the suspense watching that scene was
it
just
was
nuts, dude. When they all started coming out, they were like ants coming out of a hole, and they were fucking sprinting and everything. And that little girl one, the little girl clicker, when she was like crawling through
that
the
was
car,
so good.
bro, I was like, this is terrifying. The way she's moving and everything was just fucking incredible.
She's
Give
like
me more of
contorting and
that,
getting through
please.
that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because so far we've gotten to the part like in the show it just feels like we haven't seen very many infected, and I kind of understand that they're making it more about the humans. And when you're playing the game, the humans are way more scary than the zombies. And when you're playing the game, it's just like humans are so much, and that's the way that's the message that they tell in the game as well. It's like it's actually the humans you need to worry about. It's not the fucking clickers, and it's not the monsters. It's actually the humans are the real monsters. And I thought especially when that scene started, and where Joel's gets the rifle. I remember turning to my girlfriend. I'm like, "Oh, this is in the first game. This is where you first get a scope," because I remember this part in the game, and I remember like literally your hands are shaking when you're trying to save them because there's like loads of like zombies coming at them. Um, Remind me, are Fedra after you at that part in the game as well? I think they are,
Yeah.
and you have to
Yeah, they
you're
know that
shooting
you've
Fedra
escaped.
guys as well as zombies as well, right? So I
Yep.
was kind of thinking like, oh, have they just kind of gotten rid of the infected here? They're just doing this scene with Kathleen and all of her guys because it's obviously not Fedra either. It's different. And then when we saw like them coming through, like with the plow kind of battering cars out of the way. I was like, oh, I don't think we're going to see any infected here at this time. And then, boom, it just kicked off, bro. It was so good. I was
And
blown
that's
away by it.
fantastic.
Yeah, and that's what I want. That's what we need.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely in terms of seeing the driving force of like this whole situation of the apocalypse, like that's what we need is to see how dangerous they really are
Yeah.
and how quickly they just come out of the woodwork and
Oh,
just
bro, like
destroy everything along the way.
that whole housing
Now,
estate got destroyed in the matter of 2 minutes. It was erased. That bloater going around like ripping like Jeffrey Price's head off. Like he just ripped it off. Like it was unbelievable. I was like, wow.
so I don't know if you noticed that, but like that's an Easter egg.
Yeah,
So if you were to, so I don't know if how often you've died from a bloater in the
I
game
have.
itself.
They pull your head off at one
So
point. Yeah,
right.
yeah,
So he's basically getting into the mouth and like just digging in and then like ripping the jaw and then your head comes straight off. Now they don't show that fully in the game itself, but it's implied because then it cuts to black.
yeah,
So in the show, like you see he's digging into the mouth and that's that point and I'm like and I pointed to Katie, I'm like, they did that they do that in the game.
yeah.
I'm like
But you actually
I'm
did
like,
see
that's
his
an
head
Easter
get
egg.
separated. His head came off into his hand.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
it was violent, bro. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And
Violence.
to be honest, if we don't see another scene like that for the rest of the season, I think that was enough for season one. I really do.
Yeah.
Like that could be it. Like, because if I'm thinking how the rest of the game goes, he's probably going to get to Tommy soon, as you say. We're going to get the winter scene soon as well. And then we go to like the hospital for towards the end, and then we've got the DLC to go through as well. So, like, yeah, like I don't think we're going to see a mad amount of infected again. If we do, I'd be kind of surprised. But yeah, like, oh man, I just like I want to watch that episode again.
It was fantastic.
it's the one episode. Obviously, I want to watch them all again, but it's the one episode that I thought after watching it, I could watch that again. Like it was so good, so good.
Hmm.
Um, so episode 5, yeah, like that's pretty much the end of episode 5, right? So they kind of the whole scene with Sam happens, and then Henry takes his own life, and then they bury the two of them, and then they walk off. It's like let's go, and that's the end of the episode. Um, we're obviously the fact that you've told me that they're it's kind of leaked out that they're going to follow the structure of the first game for the end of the first season. Do you think? and obviously that was the plan from the beginning. Obviously they had to write the script, they had to shoot the show. That's fine. That's been set in stone the whole time. We're just in the unknown. What do you think they're going to do for season two? Like after the success of this show, do you think that they now in season two will start to slow down? Like, what do you think is going to happen there? Like, I think they could they could really stretch out the second game
Y-
a lot.
Yeah, in terms of the second game, I haven't
You haven't
finished
played
it
it,
yet, but
yeah.
in terms of that, I would say that if it works for the first one, why mess with it in the second season?
Well,
Why not?
this is where Hollywood kicks in. This is where the fucking suits get involved, and they go, whoa, 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 let's pump the brakes here for a second, guys. This is the biggest show in the world right now, right? There's if there's Joel's faces on buses in Ireland, for Christ's sake. This show is everywhere. There's no way that they're not gonna go. Actually, guys, let's fucking split season your script for season two. Let's turn that into season two, season three. I would fully believe that, like absolutely. Like there's no way that they're gonna just do one more season and then say right, that's it, goodbye.
Right.
And again, I don't know how much of the second game you've played, but there's a pretty pivotal thing that happens towards the start of the game, and this is part of
Mm.
what makes me think that they're going to stretch out the story, is because I think the thing that I'm talking about, which I don't know if you talk, if you don't, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, so I'm not going to mention it. But if you do, I think you might know. But if you, I'm not going to say it just in case. For anyone who might be listening who's never played the game, I wouldn't say this because it is a massive spoiler. But I really think that spoiler that I'm speaking about would be a fantastic end to season two. Think about it.
And I could see that. I could totally see that. I think that would be fantastically done because like in terms of that, if you were to elongate and to reach that finale for season two, I can totally see that, and to then make a season three of like that journey,
Yeah,
like
and
the second part of the
we're
journey,
we're
and
we're giving Ellie time to grow up as well. We're giving the actress time to grow up and actually, let her actually come into that role naturally. Because I think she's actually 19 in real life, but she doesn't look it at all. Like she actually looks 14. But I think there's a 5 year. I might be wrong in this. Maybe someone in the comments on the video can let me know. But like, what's the actual time jump? Is it 5 years or is it more or less? I can't remember. Like I think there is, or maybe it's three or something. But there is absolutely 100% a time jump from the first game to the second, and I think it's 5 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, but yeah, like I think it'd be cool to see the same actress in the role, but I can understand if they want to fire it out as quick as possible that they'll recast like HBO have done for House of the Dragon, like we've been talking about previously as well.
right. And I mean, like you said though, I mean, it could be elongated. I really don't want it to be,
Yeah,
only for the fact that because their pacing is so good. But I do agree with you on the idea that like Hollywood will look at this and be like, well, we can't just stop from here.
yeah,
And that's what they did with The Walking Dead. And I know that for most people, The Walking Dead to them is like it's still going well. Everything's like pretty
yeah.
exciting and whatnot.
HBO are
But
different. HBO are different. I don't think they're gonna do that. Like, I think I might be wrong in this again, but I think like The Sopranos, for example, is probably one of the longest running shows on HBO. Um, Game of Thrones, oh, I suppose, yeah, I'm kind of shoot myself in the foot with my own theory here, but Game of Thrones, yeah, they kind of made a mess of that by letting it go on longer than it should have. But then they've kind of revived themselves with House of Dragon, so it's hard to tell. But yeah, I don't know. I don't see this show going for 8 seasons anyway. I think three, maybe four. Four would be stretching it, especially if they do a third game. Then maybe they might have more material to talk. Like again, Drunkman, the guy who makes the games, is the one who's created the show as well. He might have a third game written already, and then they could just go on and tell that story in live action because the show is the biggest thing in the world. I would understand why he might say, okay, let's scrap the game. Game's going to take us 5 years to make. Let's just make a show in 1 year. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
because
we'll
why
have,
not?
yeah, exactly, and we'll have everyone in the world watching it, and you'll have a tenth of that playing the game. So I can understand why they would want to do that. And then, like, imagine what it would be like if we got, say season two ends where I think it's gonna end. They come back for season three. They do the Abby story and everything in season three, and then season 4 is like unknown territory to everybody, including the people who played the games. That would be wild, bro. That'd be
Exactly.
wild, and I think that'd be a massive selling point for the show to actually step into the unknown, and even the diehard game fans don't even know where it's going from there.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then you have the safety net of knowing that the dude who created the game is the one who's writing the show, so it's not as if it's like, unknown territory and you're handing it off to a writer who's just going to fuck it up, who doesn't know the lore, doesn't play the games, doesn't care. This, like, so many of the IPOs that are out there now, like Star Wars and Marvel and DC, they hire these writers who don't know the source material, aren't even are openly saying that they're not even a fan of the source material, and then they come in and they just, like, shocker, they make a shit show or they make a
Absolutely.
shit movie.
Right.
Oh,
Because
who would have known? The guy who says he doesn't like this has made a shit fucking sequel. Of course, you know what I mean. So
right.
I
You
think
you
you
give
have that safety net there.
right, and you give the part to like you give the story writing to someone who doesn't know how to write a story about what they just heard about.
Yeah,
And it's fucking insane. It's like, I forgot the lady's name who wrote the story for She-Hulk, or directed She-Hulk. So that was one of the biggest peeves of like my entire 2022 year, was the fact that they ruined the She-Hulk persona because the person who wanted to direct it or write it thought that She-Hulk needed to be a little more of a human, and to want to like have concerns about relationships and whatnot.
yeah,
And when it comes to shows like that, like, you don't do that to heroes.
hmm.
Heroes do not get to have relationships.
Yep.
They may like hook up every now and then with like random humans, or they
She
may
Hulk
hook up with other
smash.
heroes. Yeah, exactly. Like, she can be a bit promiscuous in
Yeah,
the books,
she's
but like
she's 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 riding everyone in the comics. Like, that's the way she
like
should be.
but she's because she's rocking it, because
Yeah,
she's like the hero, and she's like, she could do whatever she wants. She's a freaking Hulk.
yeah,
And that should have been the driving point of the show. Like, I was getting tired of the fact that like there were these sit downs and like little meetings about like, oh, I'm just so like sad I don't have a good
yeah,
relationship
yeah,
with someone. I don't have a man. When in the first fucking episode, like, it was clearly intended to not be in that direction. It was
yeah.
clearly intended to be like,
Strong,
okay,
independent woman. I could do what I want.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah. They kind of,
exactly.
yeah, they kind of like just backtracked on their own story, on their own message that they were trying to send.
Exactly. Yeah, and this was going to be like the first female superhero, like, in a solo project, that fights crime, that fights like different enemies, like different villains, and we get to see those types of villains in the show, like, and that's what we want. That's what, like, I feel like that's what any comic book reader wants. That's what anybody wants in terms of like a hero or a heroine. It's like it's comics 101.
Yeah,
You give the hero a tragic backstory, or you make them like just the most cocksure person stepping to the line of duty, knowing what the fuck they want to do. Just like Deadpool. Deadpool is like, he doesn't give a shit.
yeah. Well, like,
And but he
they
Yeah,
talk about this all the time in movies and TV shows and comics. Like, it was in No Way Home. The Andrew Garfield turns to Tobey Maguire's Spider Man, and it's like, uh, I don't have time for women. Like, I'm too busy being a superhero. Like, people like us, we don't get the girl. And then Toby, who his whole message was, we don't get the girl throughout his whole movie. And then it's obviously, 20 years of him trying, he gets it in the end. You know, I've seen it in DC stuff as well. Like, I'm recently going through and rewatching some of the Green Arrow show and the Flash, and like, literally there was a line in an episode I was watching the other day, and it's like the Green Arrow turns to the Flash, and it's like, don't waste your time on the girl, Barry. We don't get the girl. Like, people like us don't get the girl. Like, and that's the
it's
superhero
true.
mindset.
Because you have to do your duty.
Yeah,
Like, you're
yeah,
the only person in this world that can save everybody.
yeah,
So you don't
yeah.
have
The
time for
world comes
relationship.
first. That's what being a superhero is. Yeah,
That's
facts.
exactly.
Facts. So yeah, look, I've just been speaking about DC very briefly, so I'm going to make a little transition into our last topic of the podcast tonight, which is James Gunn's announcement, which was last week. But did you see this? Did you
I
see what's actually
I
announced?
Yes, and I don't remember it all exactly. The only one I really cared about was the color spectrum show, like for the different rings.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, like look, James Gunn put out this video on YouTube, and we meant to talk about this last week, but we obviously had technical difficulties with our streaming software last week, and I was gonna ask you to put the video up and we could watch it together and talk about it and blah blah blah, but we can't really do that today, so we're just gonna have to talk about it. So I'm just bringing it up here just because I want to have the full list here
like
just
the entire lineup.
in front of me. Yeah, because there's a full lineup. So they're actually referring to Slate. They're calling, like, instead of Phase One, they're calling it Slate One. So they're DC are launching their own cinematic universe. James Gunn was made and Peter Safran. They were both made co-CEOs of DC Comics, and James Gunn had said that he was going to launch a 10-year plan for a rebuild of the DCEU, as it used to be called, but now it's just being called the DCU. So we're going to have the MCU and we're going to have the DCU. And I always used to call the DCEU the DCU anyway, so like it makes sense that it's going to be called the DCU. But basically, yeah. So like they're doing, and I want to get your opinion on this because I've kind of been thinking about this a lot, and I'm very divided in a lot of cases with some of the stuff that's coming out, and just some of the decisions that they're making are really strange to me. Um, you know, obviously Black Adam happened. At the end of Black Adam, we had Henry Cavill reappearing as Superman. The world went crazy. You know, Henry came out and said, "Look, I'm officially back as Superman." He hangs up the sword from being Geralt in The Witcher. We think, okay, he's going to be focusing on Superman for the next 10 years. This is fantastic. This is the role he wants. And then it all just falls apart. You know, he comes out, and a couple of weeks later, then there's a whole shit online about, you know, James Gunn hating Henry Cavill and not wanting to work with him, and then we get this announcement that, you know, he's saying that he's not. So it's like, okay, maybe he does hate him. So like then, you know, it's like, okay, so now we're waiting on James Gunn to announce his Phase One, or as they're calling it, Slate One. And basically he's got 11 projects coming out in their Phase One, and it's starting. The first project of their Phase One is going to be a Superman movie, and they're going to be recasting, and it's going to be a new actor, and he's going to be younger, and they don't know who it is, but whatever. Um, what do you think of, like, you know, I think, are you a Henry Cavill fan? I can't remember. Like, again, we don't really talk about DC that much on the podcast, but I love Henry personally. I think he's the best Superman we've ever gotten. I'm a big fan of Zack Snyder. I know a lot of people aren't, but I loved Man of Steel. I thought it was a fucking perfect Superman movie. I think I know a lot of people have gripes with it because he was a lot darker. It was a much darker take. Like, you know, Superman's like supposed to be the symbol of hope and blah blah blah, and this one, you know, like he's killing Zod, snapping his neck and all, and it is darker, but I think it's not realistic, but I think it's a lot more real. Like, you know, you've got a dude
Yeah,
who has just found out that he's got superpowers, and then an evil guy who's an alien from the same race as him comes down to kill him. Like, of course he's gonna fight him and kill him, you know, to save the earth. Like, you know, I
exactly.
didn't really see the criticism in the movie. I didn't really understand it.
Well, I mean, I am a big fan of Henry Cavill. I love his work. I think he does a fantastic job as an actor. And because I'm such a big WoW fan, like, you know, when I found out he played WoW and he makes
Oh,
his own computer, I'm
he's a
like, that's my guy.
he's a massive gamer, massive gaming nerd. Like, apparently now he's doing a Warhammer TV show with Amazon, I believe. So when he lost the DC role, apparently, you know, people were like, yeah, look, do you want to, like, dedicate the next couple of years of your life to Warhammer? And he's like, absolutely, because he's a massive nerd. So yeah, look, I think Henry will land on his feet. I think the MCU should scoop him up. It would be fantastic to see him as like Hyperion or something like that in the MCU, or put him in Thunderbolts as what's his name? The Who's going to be the dude in the
You want
Thunderbolts
him to be
now?
like
Sentry. Sentry. Sorry, I couldn't think of his name
Sentry?
there. Yeah, so Sentry's going to be in the Thunderbolts movie. And I think Henry Cavill as Sentry will be fucking amazing.
Wait, why would Sentry be in Thunderbolts though?
Because Val is going to create him using super soldier serum, and he's going to become Sentry.
Oh,
So the story is that he's going to be the good guy at the start of the movie, but then the super serum that he gets is going to drive him mad, and he's going to turn into a villain. Could you imagine Henry Cavill in that role? Like that'd be so cool, dude. So
Yeah,
cool.
that's kind of odd. Like, but I mean, we'll see how it drives forward. I mean, like, I really hope that they kind of maintain the stature of the Sentry though, like, because the Sentry's not like like perfect or anything. He's got agoraphobia, so
Yeah.
like, at times he has a hard time leaving his own house. So
Yeah. Well, like I think it kind of makes sense if you think about it, like because like the lineup of the Thunderbolts is like all super serum soldiers, like pretty much like every single one of them except for um Yelena. I think she's the only one who isn't a super soldier. So uh yeah, I like that idea. Um
yeah,
yeah, look, I'll hold my criticism for Superman. Like the movie's being directed by James Gunn as well and written by him, so fuck knows what's going to happen there. Is he going to turn Superman into a joke? Like I don't know. I really don't know. Like it's so hard to tell.
well, here's the thing, like Superman is like, as much as we love Batman, as much as like the entire population of DC fans like absolutely love Batman, Superman was like supposed to be the beginning, like he's the leader, he's supposed to be the like the start. And so we need that strength from the start.
Yeah,
So when they did the Snyderverse like type of like Man of Steel and whatnot, it was cool that it was dark and gritty, but like it still had this kind of weird Batman feel to it, and I'm kind of getting tired of that because I love I love DC in the fact that they can be dark, that they can have these moments, but it's not always that way, especially for Superman. During the Golden Age, we didn't have that shit. Like we
yeah,
had like, stop, you thief, and he'd
of
shoot him
course.
with his like lasers or like melt his feet to the freaking cement or something, and it's just like, we stopped him, we got your TV back in the sense. And I know I'm kind of getting a little silly with it, but like that's how
Yeah,
it was in the Golden
but
Age.
this is
But
this
that
is
was
like
Superman.
this is I think what a lot of people were saying is their criticism of the Snyder universe is because it is so dark. But I think
Mhm.
dark is more real. So I don't know. It's up in the air. But I don't mean to shit in your cereal, bro. But I think what's gonna be happening is I know I said that this Superman movie is what's gonna start the DCU, but Batman is already gonna be established in this universe. So one of the other again, I don't know what the release schedule of these movies are, but there's going to be a Batman movie. So we're going to have a new Batman, right? And the movie's going to be called The Brave and the Bold, which is obviously, if you know Batman at all. Um, Brave and the Bold is just, there's been movies Brave and the Bold, there's been comic books around Brave and the Bold, but it's going to be with Batman and Damian Wayne, his son, as Robin. So Damian is the fourth Robin. So the second I heard that it was going to be Damian Wayne, I knew straight away, okay, this Batman has to be older because Damian's the fourth Robin. So unless they're going to like rewrite fucking history, like he's the fourth Robin. So I'm like, this Bruce has to be at least 40 years old. I would say at least. Um. So what do you think of that? So like again, like you're saying the universe starts with Superman, but this universe is already technically going to be well established because you've got a Batman who's probably in his 40s or maybe 50s.
I mean, I'm more than okay with that because we have too many fucking reboots with Batman. I am tired of it. So
Yeah,
if you have him as an older gentleman,
yeah,
or even if you were to do like Superman and he's an older gentleman, like they're all at like a certain age,
yeah.
like they've matured and they're all like what if the JLA is already established and
Well,
they're just
this Batman or this Superman is apparently going to be around 25. Like he's going to be just starting off, but the Batman is going to be on his fourth Robin, so they're going to be, in the comic books, Bruce and Clark are like the same age, like they're around the same age, and they're considered to be like good friends with each other, like they're very
so.
close. But this is going to be completely different.
Can you answer me this question because I'm not that savvy on like DC? So with Superman, I know he's an alien.
Mm-hmm.
Um, does he age differently, or is he aging the normally because he's on Earth?
Yeah, I think he just ages as if as a human would.
Okay,
So he like I think in the Snyderverse, like he says to himself, or he says the thing, I've been living on Earth for 31 years. Like it's like, I'm not a danger because I've been here for 31 years. Like so, I think he just
and then
ages
you
he ages normally. Like yeah, it's not as
and
if
then you
I
look at you look at Henry Cavill and you're like, and you haven't aged a day over 31.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm very curious to see where the whole Batman thing goes, because to add to this, when I first heard this announcement, I was like, okay, this has to be an older Batman, but I didn't even have a clue. But now this week, rumors are flying on the internet. I don't know if you've seen any of these, but during the week there was massive rumors going around that Christian Bale was going to be returning as the Batman of the DCU. So he was going to be an older Batman, but it was going to be Bale's Batman from a different universe. So maybe it's not Nolan's Batman per se, but it's Christian Bale playing Batman, but it's like a different version of him or something like that. And everyone just like, oh my god, the DCU is saved. This is amazing. They're bringing fucking Christian Bale back as Batman. This is going to be the best shit ever. He's going to have a son. It's going to be amazing. Um,
The
now,
only thing about that though is
go on.
the memeing. Like if they were to bring Christian Bale back and they have like Damian Wayne, that's his son.
Hmm.
Like, dude, it's gonna meme it up, dude. Like they're gonna make fun of the voice again.
Yeah, well, yeah, but so that would be nothing compared to what the rumors are today. So this is fresh news. So basically, one of the big kind of scoopers on Twitter is named Grace Randolph. Very, very in the game. Very like connected to Hollywood. Knows and releases actual like scoops that are real and always end up to be true. She put up a picture on Twitter, I think yesterday, and it had a picture of three Batmen standing beside each other. It was Val Kilmer on the left, George Clooney in the middle, and I think it was a Bale on the right, or there was another Batman on the right. I can't remember who it was. Oh no, sorry, it was It was Val Kilmer and Keaton in the middle, and Clooney on the right. Right, and she puts up this picture and she goes, "One of these Batmen will be the primary Batman in the DCU." And everyone's like, "Uh oh." So people think automatically, okay, it's going to be Keaton because Keaton's going to be in the Flash. But it turns out apparently that Keaton won't be in. He was originally meant to be in this scene, this after credit scene, because Barry Allen is going to reset the universe, and that's what's going to start the DCU. So Flashpoint sort of thing is going to happen, and then the universe is going to get reset at the end of his movie. But it turns out that they had decided to go down the road of using Keaton, and Keaton was going to appear in Batgirl, and they were gonna do like a Batman Beyond sort of thing where he's training up her, and he's like a retired Batman and so on. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, that's cool. And then he was meant to be in Aquaman 2 as well, and then they were meant to bring back Ben Affleck as well for Aquaman 2. But now it's like they've scrapped everything, and apparently the new rumor is that it's gonna be fucking George Clooney, man. Clooney's Batman as the main Batman in the DCU.
Now Clooney came
Clooney was in the
like
one with Arnie, like with Freeze, that one, like the joke Batman movies, like they were the
right.
worst, dude. He was terrible, so bad. The
So
suits were so bad, nipples on the fucking suits and everything. The movies were terrible.
I think Tim Burton just really liked 60s Batman and really wanted to
I
run
don't
with
even think
that.
Tim Burton did that one, because Tim Burton did the Keaton ones, and they were good.
I thought
These,
he did all of them.
no, I don't think so. I don't think he did. And like I like Val Kilmer's one as well. I thought Val Kilmer was good. I thought Keaton was good, but Clooney is like, I don't care what anybody says. Fight me in the comments. I don't care. Clooney is the worst Batman in the movies ever, like easily. And now those movies are like the one. I think he was only in one as well, but it was a joke. I think it was Batman Forever is the one that he's in, and that was the one with like Poison Ivy and
No, that would be Batman and Robin.
sorry, it's the one with Freeze anyway. I know for sure. But Jesus, man, I just like I don't know what they're thinking. And like I saw, gotta give a shout out to Den and Nerds. He actually made me laugh out loud today. Like he he put up a tweet going, "This man," as in talking about James Gunn, because him and James Gunn had beef on Twitter. So like it's always funny because he's always like kind of going at James Gunn now. But basically, he put out a thing saying like, "This man fucking let Henry Cavill go, but is bringing back George Clooney. Like what in the hell is going on?" Like, dude, it's wild. But do you know what's got me actually thinking? If they're putting out there and trying, because I think that the studios release this shit themselves. I think they release these little like rumors and teasers just to see what the fan reactions are. I wouldn't be surprised if they're keeping Ben Affleck on and they're like saying, "Oh, a previous Batman's coming in," because like again, he shot shit for Aquaman 2, and he's apparently I know he's involved in the Flash movie as well, so it would make sense if it was Ben Affleck. It doesn't make any sense to bring George Clooney back. And like again, prove me. I don't know. Maybe you can prove me wrong, but like, tell me a good movie that George Clooney was in. I don't even think like I know he's a terrible Batman, but I don't even think he's a very good actor either.
Uh, I mean, if you were to like, I'm assuming if you were to ask my girlfriend, she would say like Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 13.
Terrible movies though, bro. Like I like again, it's not really A-list acting. Like what I mean. Like it's not like a like it's not a like an award-winning movie. Like that's how I don't like Clooney. I think he's very overrated as an actor.
It
Ocean's
could also
11, he
be the
just kind of
case,
he acts as if he's just George Clooney in that movie. Like what I mean. He's not like acting.
right?
So
I
I
mean,
don't know. I don't know.
yeah. No, no, you could be right about this. Like you could just like maybe they're just doing it for the face.
Yeah,
That
but again,
it's
it's he like you got to think about this, right? Like I don't even would I don't think I'd even really consider Clooney to be like an A-list actor anymore. Like obviously he's famous and he's got a good like kind of catalog of movies and stuff behind behind him, but like I don't see him appearing in stuff now. Like he's not in like big like summer blockbuster movies anymore. And like the only thing I've seen him in recently is in like Nespresso ads, like coffee ads on TV. Like that's all I see him in. I don't see him in movies. I don't see him popping up on TV shows. I don't know. Maybe I'm not seeing the stuff that he's in. I don't know. I just feel like he's kind of dropped off. And like if you were to do this on like a TV show, like I know he was in one of those hospital like fucking drama shows back in the day. That's kind of what made him famous originally. Like if he was to return to that, I'd be like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like whatever. Like that's his roots. That's where he came from. But like he is notoriously known as being the worst Batman, and comic book fans are the worst. They're gonna tear him apart. Like I just don't see from any point of view where this is a good decision to bring George Clooney back. I just don't like. I don't get it at all. I can understand why they might bring Bale back. Bale is probably considered to be the best Batman. He's probably the most fan favorite Batman because of the Dark Knight and so on. I can understand that. Like if you want to bring Bale back and he's down to do it, I think that'd be like wow factor. That's like bringing
yeah,
Robert Downey Jr. back to the MCU. Like that's like legendary actor coming back into a role that he was. The movies were like The Dark Knight is probably considered one of the best, one of the best, if not the best comic book movie ever. And like that would even go on like people's lists of just best movies ever. It kind of it ascends past the superhero genre. That movie, like what I mean. Like my parents love that film. They
yeah,
hate superhero movies. Like, but
and
they'll watch
even
The Dark Knight. Like,
right. Well, and even with The Dark Knight Rises, like it wasn't that great of a movie, but people still talk about it.
yeah, because it was the sequel to The Dark Knight. I think that's why
Yeah.
that movie was so good. Like, The Dark Knight Rises was the worst in the trilogy, in my opinion. Batman Begins, I don't think gets enough credit. I think that movie was incredible. I thought it was a
Oh, that
great
movie
intro.
was
So good, bro.
holy, like
Liam
super
Neeson,
fantastic.
Liam
Like,
Neeson as Ra's al Ghul and all, and it was so good, dude. Like when he was joining like the League of Assassins and all. Whew, amazing.
and it was like that to me is like that's origin story. That's like
Yes.
the perfect
Yeah.
origin story.
Yeah, it is like that. That was peak Batman. Like, we haven't really got like. And again, I'm not like. I think Ben Affleck did an incredible job. He's a great Bruce Wayne. I thought he was a good Batman. I think just those movies just didn't slap as hard as the Nolan trilogy, and I just think he got shit for it. But I thought he was. He's probably my favorite Batman. Ben Affleck is probably my favorite Batman. So
Yeah,
I think
I
I
I
think he should come back. I really do. I think he should come back.
I think Ben Affleck works well as the next Batman just because of his like mainly because of his looks and his acting career. I think he's done pretty well as an actor.
It's
There have
just
been some things that he was in that like weren't the best, but like I like Ben Affleck is a fantastic actor,
it's
and he's
just
a yeah.
it's just the fact I can't get my head around it. It's just the fact that he's actually part of the universe right now. So it's like, why would you bring back another Batman? Do you know what I mean? Like, one of the main guys in Warner Brothers had come out and said like, just like there was rumors going around that there was going to be four active Batmen on the screen at potentially the same time, like within the space of 2 years, and they came out and said like, look, there's not going to be four Batmen. But like they've kind of confirmed now that there's going to be at least three. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, okay, not four, but you're going to have three. So it's kind of like, why have three when you could just continue on with Affleck. Like I don't get it. Like it just I don't know. Tell me in the comments if I'm
Well, I
being
know.
mad. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Like honestly, talk to me here. Um,
Well,
do you want to hear a few
let,
more of these projects?
yeah, yeah. Let's go.
So apparently they're doing a prequel series, TV series on HBO, to Wonder Woman. So all about like the Amazons and Themyscira and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'd watch it. I'm not going to be
Yeah.
like rushing to watch it, but I'll have it there ready to go. Like, and I'll watch it when there's nothing else on. I just don't really see the point of them doing this, especially if they're. I don't know if again it's kind of vague, but it's like, is this actually the Themyscira we've been introduced to in the Snyderverse already? Are we gonna have like those actresses playing them again? Like, if they're if yes, it's kind of like okay, well, like is Gal going to be continuing as Wonder Woman or not? Like, it's just so much shit up in the air. The Slate is kind of sold to us as a reboot, but then if you look at the entire lineup of it, there's an Amanda Waller show, and it's the Amanda Waller who was in Peacemaker and in Suicide Squad and in the Snyderverse technically. So I'm like,
Well,
okay,
Gun.
you're not rebooting then because you're bringing
Right.
in old people from the existing universe, and he's talked about doing like stuff with casts from Peacemaker, like Jennifer Holland, who is actually James Gunn's wife now in real life. Like her character is going to be returning. So it's like, are you rebooting or not? Like, and it sounds like they're not, but they're still like rebooting Superman and Batman potentially, and it's like you're getting rid of. Like it really does like solidify that he just didn't like Henry Cavill and didn't want to work with him because like you're pretty much like rebooting other people but not rebooting your wife and the projects that she's touched. Like it just oh man, his wife
Well, it's
appeared in
James
Black
Gunn. Like,
Adam. His wife appeared in
right.
Black Adam, and they've let The Rock go. The Rock's come out and said, "I won't be Black Adam again. I'm done. It's over." So like, it's
And
like he's killing
to be
parts of the
completely fair,
universe
though,
and keeping
yeah,
parts.
right. But to be completely fair, I'm okay if he's not, because like
I know.
he did an okay job. Like it was fine. I believed it for certain points. I think it could have been a little bit better. Um, but if they were to move on to a different person so that they could portray Black Adam a bit better, I'd be down with that. In terms of Henry Cavill, maybe the outlook is just a lot different compared to what they're looking for, and so they're just trying to work with what they've got, and maybe Cavill just doesn't fit in with the situation. Maybe it's a mutual thing. Maybe Cavill's like, you know what, yeah, I'm kind of done myself,
Yeah, I
even
don't.
though he said he wanted to stick
Yeah,
around.
I don't
Like
know.
it,
I don't believe that. Like he
it's
announced it
easier
and he left The Witcher. You know what I mean? So it really feels like he was putting all his eggs in the DC basket, and then James Gunn gets the job, and it's like, pump the brakes, buddy. You're done. We're going a different direction.
I mean, it works out for the best though, because now he's a free agent and we can pick him up for the MCU.
I really hope that Kevin Feige called him straight after that whole thing happened and just goes, look, if you want to come in, I've got a bunch of roles that you'd be fucking great for. So fingers crossed he gets in there. Another show on the list, Booster Gold. It's going to be a
I
HBO series.
I am 100% all in on Booster Gold. I
Yeah,
fucking love
I
Booster
love
Gold.
Booster Gold as well, dude. I think it'll be a great story. Like he could get a really good actor. Like I saw someone putting up like a fan casting of maybe Chris Pratt as Booster Gold, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I could kind of see it, but maybe another fan cast that I saw was the dude from Top Gun Maverick. What's his name? Powell. Something. What's his first name? I can't think of his first name.
Oh God, I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember the
Yeah,
name.
he's kind of the Iceman of that movie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I can't remember his first name, but yeah, I think he'd be a really good one as well. Um, Trying to see what else we have. There's going to be a Supergirl project, which is called going to be based off a comic run that they did called Woman of Tomorrow, which I haven't read myself, but I've heard it's like legendary Supergirl story. And apparently, I think they did an adaptation of it on the CW TV show in like the fifth series, and apparently it was supposed to be very good and stuff. So they want to turn that into a movie itself. One of the most like what's going to be one of the biggest anticipated projects for me is going to be they're doing a Lanterns TV show,
smart.
which is going to focus. It's live action and it's going to focus around Hal Jordan and John Stewart, which is going to be
And
fucking
I'm
Crazy.
I'm 100% in
Yeah.
on that.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I don't know what it is with me and the color green,
Mm.
but for both the MCU and the DC Comics like universe, it's green. Like I love Green Lantern. I love who Green Lantern is. I love like
Yeah.
the story that it comes out from.
Yeah.
I love the idea about like the strength coming from willpower
Yes.
and that it's basically limitless. I think that's why I love Green Lantern so much because that's limitless power. Just like with the Hulk, it's limitless power. It just depends on how much you can output.
Yeah, hot take here, but and I'm probably gonna get destroyed for saying this, but I kind of liked the Ryan Reynolds movie, bro. The Green
I
Lantern movie. I know it has a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems there, but it's a movie I can sit down and watch. I've seen it like maybe 3 or 4 times since it came out, like, and it's not a bad movie. Sinestro was done perfectly. Mark Strong is incredible. Ryan Reynolds can
right.
do anything. I thought he was a fantastic Hal Jordan. The CGI was probably shit considering the budget was
It's
100.
dated, yeah.
Yeah, consider it was 100 million for the CGI budget. I'm like, yeah, okay, fair enough. You can take that one. I didn't like the villain. I don't know what was his name
By
in it
Hector
again.
Hammond.
Yeah, didn't like how they did portrayed him.
Well,
That wasn't great. They should have
that
just
was
probably
the
focused
issue.
on Sinestro though. I think that would have
That
been just
was
better.
no, like like it works perfectly because you need to have Parallax available
Yeah,
in order to have Sinestro become like a Yellow Lantern, and so
yeah,
that he can form the Sinestro Corps. But the fact of the matter is that they made Hector Hammond like ridiculously like dumb for a villain, like
mm,
ridiculously like I couldn't take him seriously. He was
yeah,
screaming in the goddamn wheelchair throughout the entire fucking time that that he was a villain, and it was just so infuriating. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like the rest of the story was probably damn like it's fucking spectacular, but once you get into the villain side, that's when it like really falls apart. And if you
yeah,
don't have a good villain for like the story, then you're just kind of like shitting on it. Like you're just like
yeah,
the first half is a like a luxury chair. You sit down, you have a great time, and then the second half is like the party where they dump a fucking cake on your face and don't even
yeah.
feed you properly. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I always forget Taika Waititi's in that movie as well. Like a young Taika Waititi. He's
Yeah.
Hal Jordan's best friend in it. Which is just funny when you think back on it now. And like the dude who played Parallax is actually a good actor. So it's just the way that they portrayed the character was just wrong. It was just weird.
It's a weird
But he's a
direction.
really good actor. Like so,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can get over it. And then Blake
It
Lively's pretty good in it as well.
well, and it's just like you've said before in the past, Vento. Like they could give, like you can get the most fantastic actor. You can get like the number one actor in the world. You give them a shit script and they know it's shit, but they will do their best to fucking
Yeah,
fix it as best as possible, but it just doesn't
it'll
end
never
up the
work.
same way.
It'll never work. No matter how good the actor is, it'll never work.
Yep.
Absolutely. Another project in the list because I know we want to wrap up pretty soon.
Yeah.
Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing. They're doing a movie for Swamp Thing, which it's going to be like a horror movie. Like so, it's going to be like DC Black Label, kind of like horror film. I don't know if you watched the series on DC Universe, which I
I
think
heard the
now.
series was good.
Oh, it's fantastic, bro. I loved it. I was actually sad when they cancelled that. There was like a big ordeal, if I'm remembering what the real world events around the time, but they were actually shooting that in like a swamp area in like a part of like Central America. Like they weren't shooting it like they shoot all the other shows in fucking Canada and just making it look like a swamp or whatever or building sets. They actually shot it on location, but then something happened at the end of the first season where the government kind of kicked them out because they wanted to like double their rent and all this sort of shit, and the studio couldn't afford to pay for it, and they had to pull out, and then they cancelled the show. So it was real world shit that got in the way of them making more of that show, and that really pissed me off because it was brilliant. If you haven't seen the Swamp Thing show, for anyone in EU, I think it's on Amazon. I think you can get it on if you're in the States. I think it's on the CW. I think the CW bought the rights to it, and I think they were meant to be making a second season. But I don't think that's going to be obviously happening now. I'd say they're just going to scrap all that and just go with this movie now instead. But if they use the same actors that were in that TV show or whatever, like, or even just the same design for Swamp Thing himself, he looked incredible. Like, oh, it was so good, man. Like, can't recommend it enough. The Authority. Do you know who the Authority are?
No, I don't. I like and that's where it's like as it gets further down the list, it
Yeah,
starts to become very like foggy in my memory.
I don't really know much about the Authority myself. I'll put my hands up and say I don't know them at all. I've never read an Authority comic book, but apparently, just to give a shout out to Den of Nerds, because he knows a lot about it, and like he reads everything, and he said that the runs for the Authority are incredible in the comics, and I know I saw, like, I think comicbook.com a report on it that since the announcement, every single comic book for the Authority is all sold out, like, across the world, like, so people are just diving on it now. So
I
um
love that.
and like
I
it
love
it
when
seems like
people
a
get
project,
excited.
it really seems like a project that is going to be something that James Gunn can kind of do what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy with this team. And like, I think that's where he'll thrive creatively, is in projects like that, because no one knew who the fuck the Guardians of the Galaxy were before that movie came out, like,
Right.
and now they're just household names, like, it's crazy. So basically they have like a slate of movies which is going to be like the DCU, and then they actually have stuff that they're labeling as Elseworlds. So there's going to be Elseworlds projects that are outside of the DCU, and there's the Batman 2 is officially going to be in that Elseworlds category. I think the Flash is technically going to be in the DCU, but it's technically Elseworlds, I suppose, as well, because it's technically Snyderverse. Like, they can wrap it however they want, but it is Snyderverse technically. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I don't know. What do you think of all that?
I think it's a good lineup. I think the Mascara prequel is probably going to be the weakest link. Um,
There's a couple of animated projects as well. The Amanda Waller show, I believe, is going to be animated, and then there's another animated series as well, which is going to be Creature Commandos, I think it's called. And again, I know nothing about it, but apparently, like, it's probably set to be a good one. Like, DC animated stuff is incredibly strong. All the DC animated movies are amazing, so I'd say these DC animated shows could be massive hits. But yeah, like, it's not, they're not what I'm going to be looking forward to. Um, it's going to be, for me, all about the Batman. I need to find out who's. I really want to find out who's going to be cast in these roles before I really start getting excited. I need to know who the Superman's going to be. I want to see who the Lanterns are going to be. I want to see who officially is going to be the Batman, and then, like, let's see the Damian Wayne cast, and like really start to picture all this stuff. But, like, I think, and this is like, it's the same in business and everything. Like, competition is a good thing. Competition makes everybody, like, pump up the game. You know what I mean? And I think the MCU need that. I think they need there to be another cinematic universe out there like DC that's going to actually bring the heat and force Marvel to make better movies and better TV
mhm.
shows, because Phase 4, as we know, hasn't been great, or wasn't great. It's over now. And this week there's been, like, the first critical reviews have come out for Ant-Man and the Quantumania movie, and they're kind of mid. They're down the middle. Like, some people are enjoying it, some people are like, yeah, it's okay. Some people are saying, think of it as the first movie of a new phase rather than a third movie in a trilogy, because it's technically both. Because
Right.
they're kind of saying, like, it's not really a trilogy movie, but it seems like, kind of take it as, okay, this is step one in a much bigger story. So
And I'm all for that because, to be honest, like, we don't need a trilogy for everything.
yeah.
If this is a new step in a different direction, I'm definitely, like, all in on that.
Hmm.
But I am worried that if the, like, since the reviews are kind of showing that it's kind of mid,
Yeah.
I I'm kind of worried about how much more of the kind of hero movies are going to be pumped out, because it seems to be waning because we're not getting that same, deliciousness that we got from, like, phase 1, 2, and 3.
Can I tell you a rumor that I heard during the week that is actually going to be crazy if it's true? So I don't know if you remember when they were announcing, like, Phase 5 and 6 and stuff, and they were talking about, like, what are they calling it? The multiverse sagas. This one and the next one's going to be like the timeless saga and so on. But apparently, they're talking about how they're actually going to do another Iron Man from. They're going to bring back the 838 universe, and they're actually going to do, like, an incursion with 616, and they're going to have Tom Cruise Iron Man leading 838 in an incursion against the 616. So, the theory out there is that actually the Illuminati that we met in Multiverse of Madness are going to be either, still alive or revived or something, or, the time stone used to bring them back or something like that. So actually we'll probably get Krasinski again, and you know, Captain Britain or whatever you want to call her again, and everything like that. So I think like Disney and Marvel are just, they're on a bit of a go slow at the moment. But I really think like there's a lot of really fucking cool shit that's planned in the future that's coming in the next couple of years. And I think now with the hype around DC and the DCU and James Gunn taking over and everything, I think they're really going to need to put some extra money down and put some extra time and effort down and actually do it right, because there is going to be competition. Like 2025, if you think about 2025, you're going to have a new Batman movie, a new Superman movie, you're going to have Avengers, Kang Dynasty, you're going to have like all this crazy shit happening around the same time. And, you know, if DC come out the bat like real strong and make a good Superman movie and introduce a new Superman and kick off a new universe, and DC and Marvel are still making shit the way they're making it right now, like that could be detrimental for
Yeah,
Marvel. Like,
DC will catch up.
yeah, it really could. Like, you know, people could just be like, oh fuck this, or like let's move on to a new universe because they're not making this shit good anymore. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on that very happy note, I'm gonna call it quits for the week, guys.
In here.
If you're new to the channel, drop a sub on the channel, hit a like on the video, let us know in the comments what you think of what we've been talking about tonight. Am I talking pure shite, or do you agree with us? And yeah, look, we'll see you in the next one. Alex, enjoy the rest of your week, dude. Bye
You
bye.
too, buddy.
Bye.
Later.